A simple woman kicked out of resort. 2 hours later, her billionaire husband's yacht arrives. They laughed at her as she was escorted from the resort, whispering that she didn't belong, that her simplicity made her invisible. 2 hours later, their whispers turned to shock as a gleaming yacht pulled up to the dock, and the simple woman they humiliated stepped aboard, alongside the billionaire they never expected. What happened next left everyone stunned and forever changed the way they saw her. Before we begin, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Tales and Turns for more unforgettable and inspiring stories. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from, your city or country. Sophie had always preferred quiet weekends and simple pleasures. Today, she had chosen a small luxury resort tucked away along the coast, hoping for peace and relaxation. Her soft linen dress and worn sandals blended with the surroundings, and she carried only a small bag with essentials. She loved being unnoticed, it gave her freedom. But the resort staff saw something else. They saw someone who didn't fit their polished image, someone who wasn't meant to mingle among their wealthy guests. The confrontation came suddenly. A manager approached, his expression a mix of annoyance and authority. "Madam, I'm afraid your behavior, or rather, your attire, is not suitable for our guests. We have to ask you to leave." Sophie's calm smile didn't waver. She tried to explain her reservation, her plans, but they waved her off. Around her, guests whispered, some openly snickering at the perceived awkwardness of her presence. Sophie bowed her head politely and walked away, her heart quietly heavy but her dignity intact. She sat on a nearby bench overlooking the ocean, the gentle waves mocking the storm of embarrassment that churned inside her. The laughter and judgment felt sharp, but Sophie refused to let it break her spirit. She pulled out her phone and sent a simple text to her husband, Adrian, without explaining the humiliation, only noting that she would wait outside. She had long learned that he trusted her judgment and admired her calm composure, even when others faltered. Minutes stretched into an hour. The resort staff had moved on, assuming she had vanished into the shadows of their pristine property. Guests returned to their drinks and sunbathing, certain that their small act of exclusion had passed without consequence. Sophie remained seated, eyes on the horizon, as the sky deepened into a brilliant gold, thinking about how little kindness it sometimes takes to truly hurt someone. Then, a deep, resonant hum filled the air. Heads turned as a luxury yacht appeared on the water, cutting through the sunlight like a polished jewel. The crowd murmured, incredulous, as the yacht docked with perfect precision just beyond the resort. Sophie's quiet smile widened, she rose and walked gracefully toward the water. Her simple dress fluttered in the breeze, no longer a mark of insignificance, but of someone who held an unseen power. Adrian stepped onto the deck first, his presence commanding yet understated, eyes scanning for Sophie. When they met, he offered his hand with a quiet warmth, a wordless acknowledgement of the ordeal she had endured. Sophie accepted, stepping aboard with a grace that left everyone watching frozen in disbelief. The resort staff and guests could barely comprehend that the woman they had dismissed was married to the men who owned not just the yacht, but a vast fortune and influence that spanned continents. Some guests whispered apologies, some tried to maintain composure, but the astonishment was palpable. Sophie's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the flustered murmurs around her. She chose not to dwell on revenge or humiliation, instead, she radiated quiet triumph. The yacht began to move, and she stood at the edge of the deck, sunlight glinting on her hair, watching the resort fade into the distance. The journey across the bay was serene, the gentle rocking of the yacht and the glimmering water reflecting the warmth of newfound confidence and vindication. Sophie realized that dignity and patience can often be more powerful than wealth or status. She had allowed grace to define her response, and in doing so, she had transformed a moment of shame into one of empowerment. By the time they reached their private villa across the bay, the story had already begun circulating among the resort staff and guests. Some would never forget the lesson: never judge a person by appearances alone, for strength and influence can be quietly contained in the most unassuming forms. Sophie's quiet power had reshaped their perception in mere hours, leaving an indelible mark. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sophie stood beside Adrian on the yacht's deck, the sea stretching endlessly before them. She realized that true respect isn't demanded, it's quietly earned, and sometimes, it arrives when least expected, like a yacht cutting through golden waves to remind the world that grace and patience can change everything. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Tales and Turns for more inspiring tales of courage, dignity, and unexpected triumph.